Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, February 28th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo, writer at Salon.com, Heather Parton. You may know her as Digby. Also on the program today, federal judge in California orders reversal of Trump's firing of the probationary workers. Meanwhile, Trump plans on cutting Social Security Administration workforce by 50%. Meanwhile, Trump and Musk fire 500 from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, 800 more to be fired soon. And as Trump and Musk dismantle USAID, the acting inspector general, this is the one that was appointed by Trump, sits on a report showing devastating impact on humanitarian work. Meanwhile, the Trump administration struggles in attempting to rehire fire bird flu control employees. This as FEMA is losing hundreds of top managers. Pentagon now identifying trans troops for removal. And the anti-war Trump eases rules on avoiding civilian casualties in airstrikes and special ops. Trump reiterates that tariffs on Mexico and Canada, 25%, will start on Tuesday. Republicans now planning a year-long continuing resolution. And MAGA apparently actually confused as to why Trump is not releasing the real Epstein files. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Emma Vigeland. It is, as you know, it's Friday and also Economic Blackout Day today.
Yes. So if you have the ability not to spend or just use cash, local businesses, that's what's being encouraged. Although we're not going to boycott our way out of this, right? We need action in the streets. We need unionization. We need solidarity movements. And still, if you can, it's an easy way to at least feel like you have some control over the situation.
Withholding labor generally, I think, is more powerful than withholding your actions as a consumer.
Yeah.
But if I think, these type of things are contagious. So we got an IM early on saying that somebody's like listening on the app as opposed to watching on YouTube so that they can avoid providing ads. Be my guest. It's whatever works, whatever you can show in some way, I think could be helpful. Obviously, a lot of stuff to get to today. There really does feel like there is a turn to a return to the sort of Reagan era rhetoric by the Republicans. And to be clear, this was around pre-Trump. And in many respects, Trump sort of pushed that out. But now I don't think he cares. I mean, I think like the agenda has been farmed out. He's getting paid. He knows that he is protected. All of his cronies are in all of these agencies now. They had worked early on. And I think, it wasn't until late in Trump's first term that I think he sort of bought into this notion, this OMB notion, this Russell Vought notion of destroying, although Steve Bannon was talking about it very early on in 2017 in the first Trump term, to destroy the administrative state, right? And to do that, if you look at the sequencing, what you have to do is basically two things. Demonize federal workers, which they've been doing for, at least 15, 16 years, as long as I can remember. And demonize recipients of government help, which, again, Ronald Reagan talking about the welfare queens coming out of the Cadillacs. Reagan wasn't terribly subtle, but those were, less subtle times.
Oh,
now,
yeah. Less subtle than Trump. I mean, Trump, my point is just that Trump has kind of he abandons all the pretense. Even when he talks about we want Ukraine's minerals, he's saying some of the quiet stuff about, our foreign policy out loud, but in this weird topsy-turvy way.
I'm talking more about like sort of fully racializing who are recipients of government programs. And there is a slight return to this. It is back in favor. I mean, Trump, of course, I think is just sort of half checked out anyways. But here is would you say this is a moderate, right? A never Trumper? Was this guy a never Trumper officially?
This isn't the guy who sponsored the bill. This is the supporter, Pat Fallon.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes. He's a little
but
bit more
the bill is sponsored by a never Trump, right?
Yeah, I mean, Liz Cheney, sort
a
of
Main Street
moderate
guy.
problem solver guy.
Right, problem solver.
Yeah.
Here is Representative Pat Fallon, Republican from Texas. And understand, this does a double work, right? Because if you can justify cutting food stamps, you can justify cutting Medicaid. You can justify cutting, never mind Medicaid. I mean, are we really going to pay for food for kids wasting away in Sudan? I mean, come on. They got to get off the couch too. Here is this Texas Republican on with Fox's Dagan McDowell.
A new House bill that could expand food stamp requirements, meaning that if you're going to get food stamps in this country or SNAP, and you're able-bodied and childless, and you're 18 to 65, you have to work at least 20 hours a week. Why isn't this the law?
Right. It should be the law. You know what? We have a message for those kind of folks. If you're able-bodied and you want to, milk the taxpayer, those days are over. Get off the couch. Stop eating the Cheetos. Stop buying the medical marijuana and watching television. You're going to actually contribute now because the American taxpayer is fed up. And as Elon Musk mentioned in that segment prior, we can't fund the federal government anymore with these kind of deficits when we're spending more on our interest payments, almost $1 trillion than we are on our military.
All right. I don't need to hear the rest of this. What's her name? Dagan McDowell. Why isn't this the law? Bradley, click on that link that I sent you. Oh, yeah. Why isn't this the law? In fact, it is the law. There are already work requirements for able-bodied Americans. However, you need to work at least 20 hours a week per month. So for 80 hours a week, 80 hours a month. If you want to collect food stamps over a 90-day period of time. The only difference that this law makes is that it raises the age in which you must do this from ages 16 to 59 to 65 now.
Yeah, 18 to 55 to 18 to 65.
I think it's 59. You look at the general work requirements.
Yeah,
right there.
59.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically it raises it to 65 then.
And it's basically saying, we're going to get all of those 60-year-olds who are just, they're looking around, they're going, hey man, I got so much money for retirement, I don't need to work. I'm going to get my medical marijuana, I'm going to watch TV and eat my Cheetos, and I'm going to use food stamps to cruise into my retirement. I mean, this is just, understand that if you lose your job at age 59, the chances of you finding another job are just much less so than if you're 35.
Exactly.
And we are now, this is basically, the name of this bill should be starve our elderly who are not old enough yet to get Social Security.
Exactly right. And already the percentage of folks that are above the age of 60 receiving SNAP benefits, it's 18.3% per 2022. By the way, you can see like over a third of SNAP participants are children. But that fraction is essentially who they're going to be targeting, that adults age 60 and older. And a percentage of those are probably already working. They're just the working poor on SNAP, because we know that there are many people who are working and working multiple jobs, getting paid a minimum wage essentially, who still have to go on food stamps.
And they're also, what we're going to see is their definition of able-bodied. I mean, understand, there's no button, there's no sign that pops up over your head when you walk in to get your SNAP eligibility that says able-bodied or not able-bodied. You have to go through an extended inquiry process. It is, and they hate the bureaucracy unless it prevents people from getting any type of government benefits. That's what this is about. That's what it's about when we talk about Medicaid. That's what it's about in any of these circumstances. It is a way to cut people's benefits and to keep people from signing up when they're eligible by making the hurdles that much higher. We see it in the context of unemployment insurance in different states. They make it that much harder. And they're going to do it with Social Security by cutting the Social Security Administration staff, because then it's going to take you longer to get problems resolved. It's going to take longer for things to get processed. This is the way they go about doing it, so they don't have to take the political hit, the direct political hit of just saying, we want to screw over the neediest, the oldest, the unluckiest, whomever it is in our society.
Right, because they don't want to touch that third rail, but they do want to create that anxiety when people have a relationship with the government, which is people love their Social Security, they love their Medicare. These are extremely popular programs, and that is a direct threat to the Republican agenda, and it's been that way since like the Reagan years, as you mentioned. The difference is that Trump didn't even get to 50% in the popular vote this time, and these fools are out there acting like they have a mandate, like Reagan 2.0, winning an electoral college landslide, essentially. That's what they're acting like. They're feeling themselves in this way, and I don't know how they can get out of this without a major political hit, because even if they're saying the Republican budget isn't going to cut Social Security, if they still make it more difficult for people to interact with their Social Security, that's going to be obvious to folks.
Oh, let's save this conversation for Digby, because
I'm
not.
Maybe I'm doing wishful thinking, but like his approval rating is already taking a hit. Like,
I agree.
He came in with a very low approval rating and a short honeymoon period. He's already an incredibly divisive figure in this country, and to burn your first 100 days on like cutting air traffic controllers and going after the Social Security Administration, good luck. Good luck.
I have another theory about this, but let's talk about it with Digby, because I am concerned that when you walk into a Social Security Administration office, or you call that 1-800 helpline, or when you call the IRS direct file and all of a sudden it's not working, that your average person doesn't necessarily think, oh, this is a function of the cuts that Musk and Doge and Trump did. They just go, government doesn't work. But we will let's table that debate. First, a couple of words from our sponsors. Then we're going to be talking to Heather Parton, or you may know her as Digby. Our first sponsor for today. Oh, I've got it right here. Every day. And I feel it when I don't have my Liquid IV. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. We're still close to the beginning of the year. Maybe you want to start a new ritual, get into the habit of doing something that is good for you. This is the one that I've had for 5 years. You don't need a bottle like this. This is like an old milk bottle. But this is what I do every day. And that is, throughout this show, I am drinking water that has Liquid IV in it. And so it is 3 times more hydrating than water alone. It is powered, Liquid IV, by LIV Hydroscience. It has flavors like their hydration multiplier, sugar-free raspberry lemonade, which is exactly what I'm enjoying today. It is 0 sugar. Tastes like raspberry lemonade. It has freshly picked raspberry notes and citrusy lemon. I mean, people know what raspberry lemonade tastes like. Every day, 2 bottles of this, and I feel it at the end of the day. I just feel better. And it also obviously keeps me hydrated during the show. They have all sorts of different flavors on their website. Acai berry, lemon lime.
That's my favorite.
Pina colada, I also have a weakness for. They have, like I say, new sugar-free, the raspberry lemonade, rainbow sherbet, white peach. They have a raspberry melon too, I think. You can make your own ritual of this, or just, whenever you travel, you could take these packs with you. It's great to stay hydrated on planes and to avoid jet lag, et cetera, et cetera. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. They have an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Embrace your ritual with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code MajorityRep at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MajorityRep at liquidiv.com. Also, today's program sponsored by one of my favorite sponsors. Of course, I'm talking about Sunset Lake Sebede.com. Use the code Left is Best. You get 20% off. You get 20% off of tinctures. You get 20% off of salves and lotions, smokables. 20% off of Sebede coffee, Sebede fudge. You get 20% off of gummies. They got gummies with THC and Sebede. They got gummies with melatonin to help you sleep. They got tinctures in all sorts of different concentrations and different formulations, some to help you relax, some to help you sleep. They've got gummies with ashwagandha mushrooms to help you relax and some to provide focus. A wide array of stuff, but it's all third-party tested. They have great farming practices, integrated pest management. They don't use any pesticides. They use regenerative farming practices to protect the soil. Great business practices, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee owned, and they are movement partners. They have donated tens of thousands of dollars to things like strike relief funds and refugee resettlement and food pantries, Planned Parenthood, carceral reform. They've engaged in mutual aid up in Vermont in the wake of the floods there a couple of years ago. Just a great company, great product. Do yourself a favor. SunsetLakeSabadell.com. Left is best, 20% off. All right, quick break. And then we will be talking to Heather Parton or Digby. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome our next guest, Heather Parton, columnist at Salon.com, proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo. We are back on the Majority Report. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, and of course, Heather Parton. Heather, welcome back. I was like contemplating this, and I just thought, like, how many times over the years have we had a conversation and then we're both like, wow, this was thoroughly depressing, but hope springs eternal. And I feel like it's almost like we're already at the end of most of the conversations we've had over the course of probably the past 15, 20 years. That's where we're starting in some respects.
Yes. We are starting right where at the moment of saying, well, that was really depressing. Now we're moving into total despair. At least I am. And I expect that, a lot of people are. It's frankly unbelievable. I don't think we've talked since the inauguration, have we?
No,
because we talked right after the election, but
Yep.
I don't think we talked since the inauguration. So it's been, I think I described it in my piece for Salon today as a maelstrom. It is beyond distressing and dangerous and overwhelming, and almost to the point where I'm not sure that any of us can really see clearly the way out. We're basically trying to survive it at this point. But there are, obviously things that can be done. I mean, there is an opposition party that ostensibly exists. So,
we will talk about that.
Yeah.
There is.
And there are, forces at work. I read a thing yesterday about and I had written about this actually a couple months ago, that how the Democratic attorneys general in the states have been actually planning for the legal, the legal responses for months. I mean, they actually started meeting in 2023, apparently, to try and prepare for this, knowing that during the first term, they were unprepared. And so they had to really scramble to put together the legal cases that they needed to bring against the administration. And many of them were successful, the travel ban and whatever. I mean, and at the very least, they slowed things down. But this time they really wanted to be together. So they are working on that. And some of the states, like in California, I didn't even know this, but they have something like 5,000 people working in the Attorney General's office in California.
Wow.
And they have devoted a tremendous amount of, resources to trying to prepare for this. So a lot of the court cases that are happening, and obviously there are, individuals, there are unions, there are all kinds of institutions that are doing this, that are trying to attack this on the legal front. But this particular group, they are Democrats, and they've been meeting together. There's 23 of them. They've been meeting together for many, many months to try and prepare for it. And I thought to myself, as I'm reading it, I'm going, oh my God, when's the last time you thought any Democrats would actually have been that,
showing some type of foresight and proactivity.
Yeah, to have the foresight and proactively putting something together, because it seemed like everybody was just assuming, well, of course we're going to win. I mean, come on, Trump's not going to get back in. And there was this whole idea that somehow or another it was kind of impossible. And I frankly, there was part of me who was kind of thinking that too. So that's heartening in the sense that at least there's something out there. There's some kind of institutional pushback, and the states still have a lot of power, and there are things to do. So I don't mean to be too disparaging or too fatalistic about this, but it's really bad. It's
you're hitting
bad.
You're hitting on something just like important that I wanted to just put a pin in about the states and how they were ahead of the Democrats in Washington. There, I think, really is a major divide with either the state's attorneys general, like Tish James, who was ahead of this, and others, and the governors who already had some stuff in place to protect their citizens, whether it be Pritzker and Walz or Whitmer, who have just been better. And then the Washington Democrats, awash in this consultant cash, are unable to respond. And I think it's a really stark difference in between what we're seeing out of the states and the DC Democrats, who I think are kind of just like institutionalists only at this point, almost.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it's, and that's not to say that there aren't individuals in DC that have been pretty good. I mean, I think AOC, her responses, and she's being personally targeted now by Tom Homan, the immigration czar. There are others. I think Chris Murphy, some certain people in the Democratic caucus in both houses have been pretty good. I mean, at least they've been sounding the alarm that, hey, this is real and it is a big problem. But I'm telling you, the leadership is just miserable. And I don't see that it's creative. I don't see any sense that they understand that we're living in a new political world that doesn't respond to the evening news showing a floor speech, or, Chuck Schumer standing outside a building going, "We will win." I mean, none of that works. It's just not, it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. It's incredibly cringe. But let me, there are 2 points. One, I want to say we spoke to Chris Geidner this week about those legal cases. And broadly speaking, the most interesting thing that he, pointed out in my mind, or a broad dynamic, is that preparation is, despite from as a political matter, we're being inundated by stuff that coming, it's like, drinking from a fire hose. The response of 80 lawsuits plus against the administration has actually changed the dynamic. So from on the legal side, they are getting the fire hose. Because they don't have the resources in the DOJ to go and address all these things. So a lot of times what they're having to do is they're having to punt. They're having to just sort of we need to put a pin in this and we'll agree with it, or we won't fight this case. And what it's also doing is it's forcing them, at least at this juncture, to concede that the courts have a role in this, which is, of course, that's the break the glass worst case scenario, that they're ignoring the court's jurisdiction in these matters. The other point is, I just want to note, like when you first said, like, it's you were describing the adjectives, you did not say unexpected, right? Like, I mean, this is stuff that I know that the three of us have talked about months before the election, the assault, and it's just seeing it in real time happen and watching it go according to what essentially their plan was, is one of the more disturbing parts about it, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, we talked about this months and months ago. The Project 2025 detailed most of this. Certainly Steve Bannon's, what he used to call the deconstruction of the administrative state. The fact that they were planning to use Schedule F, which was supposedly going to take away civil service protections for all the federal workers. We knew that this was on the agenda. Now, Trump, he has a sort of a feral instinct for this stuff. He disavowed Project 2025 because it was really ugly, I mean, as we're seeing. And he said, oh, it's really extreme, and I've never even read it. And Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, sent out memos saying, you will regret it if you try and tie Project 2025 to us. We knew that it was absolutely the plan, and that the people that were working on it were Trump people. And Russell Vought, who's now OMB and was last time, he was kind of the main ideologue behind this deconstruction of the administrative state. We knew that he was going to be in the administration, so it was not unexpected. I think the one thing that I did not expect was the role of Elon Musk and the way that they are going about it through this technology aspect of it. I don't know if you read the piece in the New York Times this morning about how how this whole thing came about, how the Doge idea came about. If you haven't, read it, because it's
this is part of the reboot conference in September. We were speaking to I can't remember his name.
Gil Duran.
Yeah, Gil Duran,
who
was talking about the reboot conference in September, where this sort of Russell Vought meets the tech bros, and their agendas. On one hand, one is more Straussian. I honestly think a lot of these people are just like, it's not a problem if there's mass starvation and whatnot. That's actually sort of fits with the plan. Our AI is going to be much more efficient if there's just less people to deal with, less people, sucking the oxygen. That part of it, I think, is a little bit of the twist. And finish your thought, because I think there's another element about Musk that is also fundamentally changing the political, the politics here. And Emma and I had touched on it briefly before he came on.
Well, what this article says is that Musk had been, according to the article, he'd been sort of radicalized by the idea of, I don't know, by Twitter, basically. I mean, they don't say that, but we know that's what happened. He became an internet troll, went down the rabbit hole there of Twitter, and it changed his thinking. He's also got a lot of, maybe stimulants that are pushing him in a certain direction, but whatever.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. And I feel very confident saying cocaine and ketamine.
Ketamine. Yeah, I agree. So
I'll put that out there. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll sure. Let's just say I'm not unfamiliar with the way some people behave in that circumstance, and it looks very familiar. Yeah. In 2023, now this is going back 2 years ago, he had a meeting where there were a bunch of people, apparently down in Florida, in which he proposed this Doge thing. Now, I did not know that he was talking about this in 2023. I did not realize that this had been plotted that far in advance, and that he was doing it. And in fact, it was before he got next to Trump. It was before he decided to go all in on the campaign. And this thing has been percolating in his mind for a long time. And he has been thinking about this. Now, this goes to the Gil Duran thing, the way that whole ideology that sort of developed around.
Well, he ripped it off. Rage. Yep. He ripped off Rage with Doge, right? Which was retire all government employees, and he made it because he's never had an original thought. Musk, he's just he's just
one of those guys. Yeah, so he had he's been in that group, although he thinks he's just like Trump, he thinks he's a genius and thought of everything the first time that people have been talking about for years. Well, here's the interesting thing. I don't know if it's interesting, but it's interesting to me. I was listening to a podcast the other day with Kara Swisher, who you may or may not have any real respect for, but I do think she has known Musk for a long time. And what she said struck me. I just kind of went, whoa, that's what this is about. She said this is all about AI, and that basically AI requires data. It requires massive amounts of data, and he is catching up. He and Sam Altman were together on OpenAI, and then they had a falling out because Trump didn't want to do it nonprofit. Musk didn't want to do it nonprofit. He wanted to make money. So they broke off, and Musk has been behind on the AI thing. This is one aspect of technology that he has not been. Now, keep in mind that like the financial markets, one of the big reasons for the boom that we've had for the last couple of years is all about people get excited about
Right.
AI. All the top tech companies have been leading that bull market. So Musk has been behind on that. And in catching up, what he thought of, and it's a pretty smart thought, was that where can I get, data is everything. It's what feeds AI. And they're coming to a point where there isn't a lot of data that's available for them to scoop up for AI. But there's one place where there is a massive amount of data that's out there and that nobody has access to, and that is the US government. And it's not only about our social security numbers and our financial information, although that's very good. It's also a lot of data about competitors, about lawsuits, about suspicion, think about the FBI, what the kind of data they have in there. The first thing that he did when he came in was he went directly, he discovered there was this digital service in the government that Barack Obama had put together in the wake of the Obamacare debacle. And he realized that was the entry point into all of this data. Now, I didn't come up with this myself. I'm listening to Kara Swisher say, she says it very, kind of casually, sort of, well, it's all about AI. That's what he's there for. He's there to collect all the data. And she's questioned, well, I mean, can he use that data? I mean, is he allowed to use it for his personal use? And she goes, well, who's going to stop him? I mean,
right.
Yeah, of course. So, I hate to sound like a rank conspiracy theorist here, but I don't think that's really a ridiculous thought.
It seems almost
he's been
more
thinking about it for years.
It seems more absurd that he wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't think that doesn't have to be the only reason why he did it. I think it could just also be like, I can justify return on investment on my $300 million that I'm going to invest in getting Trump elected. I'm going to get payback.
He's getting contracts. He's doing this FAA thing. He's paying himself. I mean, no doubt about it. There are many reasons why he would do this, and some of it's just he's a megalomaniac and he loves attention, and he's an incredible weirdo. I mean, there are a lot of and also the ketamine. A lot of reasons why he's doing it, but this one strikes me as at the heart of what he is after, that makes it, and it's something that Donald Trump, of course, this is way beyond his ken, and I'm not even sure that anybody else would care about this. Russ Vought, he really does want to dismantle the government. He really does want to, turn it into, he's a Christian nationalist. I mean, he has a big ideology, Russ Vought does, and it's Christian nationalist. And so I think that, when you're looking at the big picture here of what's happening, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. And part of the maelstrom is that we're having a hard time wrapping our minds around what is happening and why it's happening. And yet, and in that circumstance, it's hard to know exactly what to do. I mean, how do you go after a situation like this when it has this kind of levels of complexity of motivations? I mean, Trump, I think, is purely motivated. I wrote about this today. Purely motivated at this point by revenge. He's making money, no doubt about it. He's in crypto. He's got all kinds of going with the Saudis. He's got all kinds of stuff going on, and no longer has any concern about potential conflicts of
Repercussions.
interest or
Yes.
corruption. He doesn't care at
Yep.
all. And he's selling merch at the Resolute desk the other day. He doesn't care. So that's not it. He's making money, and he's no longer worried about the law. The law is no longer relevant to him. The thing that is driving him is vengeance, and you can see it in every single aspect of this. And I honestly think that even letting Elon Musk destroy the government is part of that. He is so angry that he is allowing this to happen because he hates everybody.
I have a theory about that aspect of it, but the whole thing, as you describe it, with the different sort of incentive structures, reminds me of Paul Wolfowitz going like, weapons of mass destruction was just the thing we agreed on, right? Like you had the neocons who are like, well, this is going to be, we're going to create a free market experiment. And I think, Cheney was like, we're going to keep China from getting access to
Jeffersonian democracy.
The goal, the oil in this area. And Bush is like, I'm going to show my dad I'm a man. Like, Jeb's not better than me, and I'm gonna be the one to event. Like everybody, they all had their own sort of like specific incentive, and they just all said like, oh, these agendas are aligned, even if we have slightly different motivations behind them. But the point about Musk, and this is the thing that, and I want to talk just about this budget resolution too, because, and I think this has to do with Musk as well. And this is the thing that is like really the scariest part to me. A lot of people did not expect this budget resolution to pass. And to be clear, it's just the beginning of a process, but it's politically toxic. I mean, because even if this budget doesn't pass, if you're Nancy Stocktipolopoulos, or whatever her name is, or
Malio Stock Tips, say it
Malio
right.
Stock Tips, or if you're, a Republican in California or any, Pennsylvania or whatnot, you're going to pay for this vote, even if it never comes to fruition. But they got everybody to vote for it. And I think that's because there is an unlimited amount, literally an infinite amount of money that can now be deployed and is ready to be deployed by Elon Musk to make sure that and that's my point about this, the politics being toxic here. It's always a tension, right? If you're a frontline Republican, am I worried about my primary or am I worried about the general? But if somebody comes in and says, the reason why you should worry more about your general is because in your primary is because there's going to be more money spent in that primary than the general if you do not vote the way I want you to vote. I'm coming in there, $30 million. Okay.
100 million. It's nothing.
100 million. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Coins in the couch.
That is, I think, fundamentally altering the calculations that these Republicans are making. And it means that the political price they have to pay is got to be even higher than it's ever been before. I mean, prior to an election.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And in fact, I don't know if you saw this week, but Donald Trump himself said that now he's going to throw some of his money into primaries, and he's not Musk, but I mean, this is definitely part of their calculation. It is what they're using as a weapon against Republicans to whip those votes. I mean, he called up what's her name? Victoria Sparse. Is it Victoria? I can't remember.
Oh, the Indiana
kind of crazy
woman?
lady. Yeah. Nutty lady. And she was going to vote no. And apparently he just reamed her out with a big threat that he was going to take her out. Now it's kind of interesting because she was going to retire at one point anyway, and then changed her mind in the last election. So who knows what's happening with her? But yeah, I think that's a huge fear factor. And you pile on top of that the MAGA threats that come whenever you do something, go against Donald Trump. And yes, they are in a very, very, very precarious position there. And I don't think, I guess we can all be terrified that somehow or another they'll pull it off, but I don't see how that works for them in any case, whether they pass it or not. And I think that forcing those votes will be held over their heads. And when you're seeing what's happening in the districts with the pushback coming from their own constituents over what's going on with Musk. And apparently it's not, it's Musk and that budget resolution. When people heard about the Medicaid,
Yep.
They're not even cuts. It's decimation of Medicaid is what they're talking about. It was Musk and it was that Medicaid thing in those town halls that people were talking about. So they're stuck. And
I mean, 20 million people were added under the Affordable Care Act with Medicaid expansion.
Yeah.
That's a transformational thing. It's not enough, but people know that our social safety net in this country is extremely threadbare. And Medicaid is one of the things that keeps millions of people from basically being thrown to the streets without having any health care. And what is just so stark about the dynamic that we're describing here is that these Republicans' constituents are saying, don't do this. This is supposed to be what democracy is about. On the other side is the world's richest man saying, don't listen to your constituents. This is the culmination of the post-Citizens United world.
Yes,
so it's what Sam talks about with the Reagan-style politics of going after the poor aggressively, but also with the added corrupting element of having the world's richest man calling the shots despite the constituents freaking out, because this isn't a Reagan-style landslide. Trump didn't get to 50% in the national popular vote. He still won it. But the reality is like, this is just about how much can they withstand with their constituents screaming out and balancing that against the wishes of this billionaire.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. That is the sort of fundamental argument that has to be made. In fact, I read something interesting this morning on one of the social media things that they've tested some things, some messages with people. I can't remember who it was, but the one thing that absolutely has people freaking out is the fact that Musk cut research cut cancer research.
Yeah.
That it's that sort of thing. And when you say that, when you say, look, he's cutting cancer research, he's cutting Medicaid. And by the way, a big important aspect of Medicaid, if you want to talk about a powerful constituency, it's old people, right? I mean, they vote, they are
2/3 in nursing homes are on Medicaid.
On Medicaid, because nursing homes are, insanely expensive and most people can't afford it. So they spend down everything they have, sell their stuff and do whatever. And then Medicaid picks up the tab for the nursing homes. Yeah, go ahead, go after that. Just see how well that goes over. Mom's coming back. She's going to be on the couch and you're going to be, doing her IVs or whatever. I mean, it's an outrageous thing. And it hits people very close to home. It really does. These are the kinds of things that people understand. And I'm stymied. Mike Johnson knows this. He knows how toxic this is because he's running around.
It's just that there's a bigger hammer on the other side.
Yes.
I mean,
this
is the thing is that
about it.
If they have constituents on one side and the
richest man in the world,
the richest, like literally an infinite amount of money. Elon Musk could spend the functional equivalent of me buying a new dishwasher, and it would completely radically change the amount of money spent in congressional races.
He could spend
but I just want to say one thing too about Medicaid.
And it would be nothing to him.
I just want to say this about Medicaid. When they talk about work requirements for Medicaid, in 2023, there was a Republican bill that got scored, which is, where the Congressional Budget Office it looks into analyzing what would work requirements look like on Medicaid. It cut, if you added work requirements, it would bump 1.5 million Medicaid beneficiaries off of Medicaid. And it would save only $109 billion over 10 years. They want to cut $880 billion from Medicaid. Wow. So work requirements, as horrible as they are, would only get them 1/8 of the way to where they want to get these cuts. And also, to be clear,
it's insane.
The states would pick up a bunch of that funding. Some of them, the blue states would, the red states wouldn't. So the amount of people who would be thrown off of Medicaid at $880 million is just, we can't even imagine it. And so let's just, we're going to hold you long if you got time, Dig, because I want to get to what's going on with Zelensky and Trump. But first,
I just heard, yeah.
Apparently they got into a screaming match.
Before we get to that, I just want to talk about the responses and compare and contrast two responses that we're seeing to this moment. Because again, like you and I have been following politics for 20 years. And we have seen a very weak Democratic Party responding in the wake of 9/11. There was a lot of like temerity and this and that. And in this contrast and comparison, I think shows that it's a question of competence, right? And so I want to play. I guess let's play Hakeem Jeffries first, and we should say. James Carville, speaking of overpaid consultants, James Carville wrote an op-ed the other day going like, Democrats don't have to do anything. Just sit back, wait 30 days. And Donald Trump, like to understand this dynamic, like the budget resolution was the big tell for me, because I don't think if I held a gun to James Carville's head, he'd go, no way, not going to pass. It ain't gonna pass. It ain't gonna cut Medicaid by 800, because I think it is a failure of competence. Here is Hakeem Jeffries. This is the leader of the Democrats in the House, who started off Trump's term 30 days ago by saying, "Presidents come and go, but the Lord is always going to be on the throne."
Yeah,
and then it's like. Just sort of, maybe eased off that a little bit but gone on to say like the left and the extreme left and the extreme right hate me. And like just who
and just talks about strengthening the ACA. Like there's no vision. And what is just fascinating about this exchange, it was from a few days ago, but Maddow, who is as establishment Democrat as it gets, is functionally like being like, can you do something? This is the premise of this question, and how he reacts is so telling and infuriating.
That you are making against Republican policies here is one that I hear and is cogent and that plays to a greater or lesser extent, I think, all across this country. The other thing that Americans are stressed out about, though, right now, is that policy doesn't feel like it's the main conversation right now. It feels like we are in the middle of a ketamine-fueled, middle-of-the-night, autocratic power grab that is rendering Congress irrelevant, that's rendering policy irrelevant, and that's rendering the rule of law an afterthought, if not a joke, to those who are planning on staying in power indefinitely without benefit of further elections. I mean, it is not about, it is about a bad budget. That's one of the things you have to contend with. But the fight here feels like it's on a different scale than the kinds of legislative point-counterpoint stuff that I think Democrats and Republicans are used to fighting over. And I think what Americans are sort of clamoring for is to hear from you personally, as the senior Democrat in Washington, in the House where the margins are so narrow, to hear from you that you understand the scale of the threat and you have ideas about how to interrupt what feels like something that we have not experienced since the Civil War in terms of the threat to our republic.
Well, it's certainly the case that we understand the scale of the threat. That can't be doubted. The CBC, which I'm a part of, definitively understands the scale of the threat. Our communities have been under siege, as you pointed out, since before the Civil War. I'm a direct descendant of those very communities, so we understand the struggle, the history, the strength of people like John Lewis, which we're going to channel. That's my experience.
Can you just pause it really quickly?
That's my personal.
I just want people to note that he felt cornered by that question. Didn't expect to get called out by Rachel Maddow about him not doing anything, even though a majority of Democratic voters in polling, CNN, 73% say they're dissatisfied with congressional Democrats. 67% from Data for Progress say the same. He didn't expect that question. So, she mentions the Civil War, and you know what he does? Within the span of 20 seconds, he basically tries to imply that it was a racist question. He invokes the Congressional Black Caucus. He says he's a descendant of the Civil War. And then John Lewis. You really are going to try that? You're going to try that right now when she's asking you to do something, when the Republicans have the slimmest margin, historically slim margins, and you're going to act like, wow, how could you put this on me? It's almost a racist question because she said the Civil War one time. Well, this guy is not meeting this moment. He has no idea what to do because that works with him with donors, right? Because he can just use that as a way to say, I'm not going to change anything or offer anything to the base. But that's not going to work right now because Democrats broadly, even folks who would have said, I love Nancy Pelosi, are going, what the hell is going on right now?
And Rachel Maddow is literally spoon feeding him. This is your opportunity to say something inspiring and talk about how tough you're going to be.
Let me give you a chance. Yes.
I will say this: 73% of Democrats. Well, 73 was in the heart of the Reconstruction era and 1873. And I mean, it really is stunning. And I will say, like, it's not just, I mean, Maddow's point about, like, you can't just go, like, the budget's bad and this and that. Like, the Democrats are also, at least in Washington, not only are they saying, like, we're not going to participate in any of this. Like, we're done and going out there and, I don't know exactly what they should be doing, but it does not seem like they're trying a bunch of different things.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know what would work, but I do know that I can see that they're doing one thing, going out there and going, like, I mean, I feel bad for Hakeem Jeffries because to be attacked by a radical extreme leftist like Rachel Maddow in that way must be very difficult for him. But they're not trying anything other than just, like, just want you to know we're here and it's bad to cut Medicaid. Yeah, no, we get that. We get that, actually. There's no even, like, positive vision. But just to give a sense that this isn't just a sort of like a blanket, if you're a Democrat, you're doing it wrong. They're not doing anything else. Emma made the point that there's a lot more happening with governors because they actually have to, like, they can't afford to just, like, we're going to tread water and see what happens. They have to
govern. And
they actually have to, like, deal with it. This is an immediate problem for them. And here is Tim Walz. Where was it? Where on
with Molly Jong-Fast's podcast.
And look, I hear the thing out there is that when we get back, which we'll fight. I'll tell you what people are going to expect is they're not going to expect us to tinkle around the edge with the ACA. They're going to expect universal health care.
Hell yeah.
And if there's a lesson here, I always said this, we had a 1-vote majority in Minnesota when we moved clean energy, we moved reproductive rights, we moved a whole slew of progressive, very popular, including things around guns and gun safety, very popular things. We moved it with a 1-vote majority. And people ask, well, what do you call a 1-vote majority? A majority. Simple as that. These guys have learned that lesson, and governors have that ability. I'm in Europe trying to foster what I can on the trade.
There you go.
I wonder if he just came up with that idea that we need to offer something rather than tinkle around the ACA, or if that's part of the reason why we didn't hear from him during the campaign.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question.
This was, I mean, I think, like, I don't know, your sense of what we're seeing. I mean, you've mentioned already DC and sort of, like, I don't know, Pritzker and Walz. I mean, like, Whitmer's out there now. Like, some of the politics of some of these people I don't agree with, but I'm just talking about, like, doing like a response.
Yeah. I think, well, we talked about the legal response, and that's super important. That may be the only institutional roadblock that exists, even to slow down this wrecking ball that's, going through the federal government. I've heard some things that sort of interest me. It's like one of the things, I guess it was Dan Pfeiffer, the Obama, the crooked media, Obama guy, message guy, who had a suggestion that I thought was kind of intriguing. That as if we all agree, and I think we do, that attention is the coin of the realm at the moment, that everybody's just, clamoring to, just be able to get enough attention to to say something that people will listen to. It's very difficult, and some people are better at it than others. But in that respect, his advice was for all the people who were, talking about running for president. And the reason he picked that, or thinking about running for president, the reason he picked that is because that's something that the press is interested in. That's something that people are, ooh, he's running. They loved the Pritzker thing the other day, and they, so okay, let's accept the sort of shallow world that we live in, and do that. And other sort of famous people, I think, famous political people too. I think like AOC. I think she's one who can gain attention. There are others that they go to red districts, that all of those people, Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, Whitmer, all of these people who want to run for president, go to red districts around the country, go to Arizona, go to Georgia, go to places where they really, not just swing districts either, go to red places, actual deep red places, South Carolina maybe, hold town halls and take the beating that they're going to get from Republicans on it. In other words, take the risk of getting it, because that is how you get attention. Test themselves against Republicans in public, on camera, get those things to go viral, get people to see what that's about, see them, hear the argument, and see it. And I thought, I don't know what good that will do in terms of changing the dynamic. Elon Musk doesn't give a damn about any of that, but it is a way of kind of showing Democrats that that there's some Democrats out there who are willing to take the fight to the other side. And it will be good for them as far as getting a profile. And it can, it's a way of getting attention in this kind of, this cacophony of, of noise that we've got going on here right now. And I thought, okay, that's a creative thing. I don't know. Maybe they'll.
Who's doing that right now?
Bernie.
Who's doing that right now?
Bernie, yeah. And
Bernie's
in fact,
out there doing that in his
that.
oligarchy tour. I don't think he's planning to run for president again.
No, but he can get attention. People
but he
do
can get
pay
attention
to Bernie. He'll get local news.
Walz should join him. Walz should join him at the hip. If he's interested in universal health care and wants to run in 2028, go along with Bernie and be like, I'm the guy that's kind of looks like him, 20 years younger, that's going to take up this mantle.
I'm Bernie, except I'm young.
I'm from the Midwest.
He could do that, yeah.
And here's the most important thing about that is that, like, none of us here can say that's going to be helpful or not, but it's an attempt. it's an attempt. And what it will show, what you're doing when you go and you do that, particularly in specific districts, you're basically doing a stress test.
Yes.
You're seeing like what will cause a Republican who is worried about this massive, really unprecedented threat of a primary with unlimited amounts of money on one side, and then like constituents being mad on the other side. Like, what issue is going to break them? What issue is going to cause them to go out and scramble around and put out press releases and pretend like, go visit a community health center and say like, oh, I'm standing for this, or I think, Musk should slow down, whatever it is. Like this needs to be probed in that way. But all right, I want to get to this. You wrote a piece, I guess it was just 2 days ago, about Trump's, to the extent that we can call it a foreign policy. I mean, it is a shift without a doubt. It is a shift to sort of like an old school imperialism, it seems to me.
Exactly.
But talk about what you see, and then we'll get into this, what's going on with Zelensky.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the details with Zelensky because we've been on, while we've been talking that this happened. I only know that it happened, so I can't really speak to that. But yeah, I mean, I've been following this pretty closely, and I guess I don't know why I feel so engaged in this particular thing, but it has to do with the end of the post World War II world order. And I think there is a good case to be made that it's overdue for us to talk about the big American security guarantee. It's very expensive. It's probably not necessary. A lot of things have changed. And so when Trump came in the first time and he said, the Europeans need to pick up more of the tab, he's an ignoramus and he had no idea what he was talking about, but he wasn't wrong on the merits of that. The Europeans have the money to spend more money for their own defense, to contribute more to that. And the US has, had the right to kind of pull back after 80 years and say, okay, look, we guaranteed the peace for this whole time, but, everybody else needs to step up a little bit here. However, something happened a couple years ago and showing that 80 years wasn't really enough for things to completely change, because Russia invaded Ukraine and showed what could happen. Europe, and one of the big things that said to me that this was a very serious issue was when Finland and Sweden both, after, pretty 80 years, said, whoa, I want in to NATO. Because they had never done that before. They had always kept a neutral stance, on NATO after that. They were allies, of course, but they weren't members of NATO. They wanted it in, and that's because they saw a very real threat. And for them, 80 years isn't that long. They've got long memories in Europe because, obviously, two really big conflagrations in the course of just a couple of decades happened to them. And they are very, very much aware. And that were that to happen, something like that to happen, the destabilization of the entire world would be overwhelming. So at that point, you kind of go, all right, so the world order needs to be reevaluated. We need to rethink some of that. By the same token, NATO has got to stand. It's got to be something that exists, because Europe, we can't allow this to happen, and here it is happening. And Donald Trump he's the worst possible president to be in charge at this time. I don't have a huge amount of regard for Joe Biden's foreign policy. Obviously what he did in the Middle East was horrifying, in Israel and Gaza. And Ukraine, I think he did better, but I think still it was kind of like, let's just pretend like the world is what it was, and we're not going to try and be creative in any way. Having said that, it's the end. It's the end of the world order, abruptly brought to an end by Donald Trump and the way that he has decided to handle the Ukraine issue. We will never know why he is so attached, bonded to Vladimir Putin, but he is. He just said it the other day. He said it on camera that, well, we like me, we went through the Russia hoax together, so I trust him.
He apparently just said it right now.
That they went through it together?
Yeah, they just said, Bradley has it. There's two clips here. If we could just, this is blowing up.
I'd like to hear it. Yeah.
I would really like to hear what happened.
Yeah, let's play this. I just want to say that, just to be clear though, in terms of this is actually I think the second era of the post-Cold War era, right? The first one was the neocon, we are going to be a hyperpower.
Yes.
And now we're going back to this is more mafia style.
Yes.
Which is we're going to divide up the country, the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have your sphere of influence, and we're going to have our sphere of influence, and we're going to get this, and you're going to get that. And as long as I get my taste, I think that's what's going on here. I don't think there's some grand notion of this is how we're going to sustain peace in the future.
It's not about minerals. It's not about anything like that.
No, the mineral thing with Zelensky, before we get into these clips, I just want to be clear. With just an hour's worth of reading, you start to realize the whole rare mineral thing is just a cover. It is a way for Trump to go back to the MAGA base or whatever, whoever this is that supposedly wants us out of Ukraine, and say because we're spending money, we're getting stuff back. The rare mineral thing, it turns out these minerals aren't so rare anymore. A, and B, they're not so valuable. And this is just sort of this is.
Well, it's for the tech guys, though. that.
No, even there, the minerals they have, there's more in Nevada of lithium than there is in
Ukraine. Okay.
Yeah, so that is more of a for domestic consumption, and maybe what these clips are as well. Obviously.
Well, I think he also wanted to have. He wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize, and this was one way that he thought that he could, engineer that. that he's going to win. I mean, he's not. If he does, everyone should give back their Nobel Peace Prize if Donald Trump ever wins it. But
I mean,
regardless,
Kissinger won it, so.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It would track. All right, so what set up these clips, Emma?
I mean, it's breaking news. Zelensky and Trump got into a screaming match in the middle of their meeting after having like a cordial handshake to start the day. JD Vance and Trump just start yelling at Zelensky.
Vance starts this by basically saying you're not being respectful to us when we're trying to save your country, and it kind of devolves from there.
God, I hate that guy.
We're
he's made an
doing
appearance
favors
now.
for you, and you're not showing the proper respect.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people,
Pause it for a
you bring
second.
them on a propaganda.
I've
Oh my
actually
God.
seen news reports
I've
from.
watched and seen the stories, so
Yes,
I'm an expert.
In fact, I have a subscription to Russian news, and so I get a sense of what's going on over there. Did he not think that he was going to get that response? Good for Zelensky. Go ahead.
Seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems? Bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the
cards.
cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
But right now, you don't.
I'm
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
What do you
You're
think
gambling
about?
with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. It's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
you said thank
Even
you.
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Can I just make one statement on the conscription thing that Vance said? It's actually under U.S. pressure that conscription and the draft age being lowered. Waltz came in immediately saying actually it should lower down to 18. So a little bit too forked tongue coming out of there.
Trump's also claiming that 1 million people, 1 million Russians have been killed, which is just not true. I mean, they're saying all these things that are completely untrue, but did you see, Trump is trying to act like he's on The Apprentice right there. That's really what the thing that I just clicked into, seeing those old episodes of him having a TV moment and firing somebody.
Yep.
And frankly, this probably plays for him, but it also really plays for Zelensky domestically. For him, this is a good moment, I think.
Within the context of Ukraine.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's very possible.
It's a viral moment of him standing up to Donald Trump and getting into it with him and JD Vance. And then this was the part where I guess he repeats that same thing, right? About how him and Putin bonded over Russiagate.
A reporter asks if Russia breaks this proposed ceasefire, and he says, what if anything can happen? What if a bomb drops on your head or something like that? Then goes into like, Putin went through a lot with me. Like maybe he's broken deals with other people, but he wouldn't break it with me because we've been through so much together with Russiagate.
All right.
That's insane.
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam.
God.
Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war.
Poor Putin.
And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it.
Pause it for a second. I mean, what is so fascinating is like somebody has obviously told Trump, like, you don't want to sound whiny. So like he's out there saying like, well, look what you put Putin through. He was so upset about Shifty Schiff. He was so mad at Shifty Shifter. And I mean, it really is amazing. It's like watching that episode of The Sopranos when they were, rolling the hardware store guy.
Right.
All right, go back. Sorry.
Well, it's also like The Sopranos when Junior is slowly losing his mind, honestly, because he sounds like Fox News grandpa. What is he talking about? I mean, it's all personal grievance, but
you put Putin through so much.
Since he lost in 2020, he at least like when the Kushners were in his cabinet the first time, some connection to like a liberal, like shared culture. I don't know, but he's been completely in one America news mode for over 4 years, and he's aging. He's losing his mind. Anyway. Keep going, I guess, right?
And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. What? It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yep.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Oh my God.
Can you pull up just really quickly the image of the ambassador? This is the ambassador to Ukraine. Someone took a photo of her reaction. Oksana Marakova, the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. This is what she was looking like in the crowd or in the scrum. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So.
Can we talk for a moment about J.D. Vance here?
Sure.
First of all, was this a setup? I mean, was he sent there? Was he sitting there with the purpose of attacking Zelensky for not being thankful enough to our dear leader? He was sent there to do that.
I think you're
100%. 100%, because Trump doesn't want to be the first one to bring it up because it sounds whiny. So you have your second say like, you're paying homage to the king.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to do, and hey, Keir Starmer yesterday, boy, did he ever know how to do it. He came in with a letter from King of England, from King Charles, inviting him to a state, function, and you're the first one, whatever. I mean, the groveling was so extreme that I almost literally threw up. I think they were really wanting Zelensky to come in here and really grovel, and J.D. Vance was there to police that and to say, you need to thank him. And of course, Zelensky, I totally, I admire him more than ever now for having the chutzpah to actually fight back. He could have sat back and gone, well, I am very thankful. Of course, I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for everyone. I'm thankful for Mr. Trump. He's the greatest, whatever. He could have done that, and he didn't. And good for him. But that whole setup, I think, Emma, you are absolutely right. This is a made-for-TV moment. That's why they did it. That is what they did. They wanted to show that. And what do you guys think? Is this, I mean, Emma, you said you thought it was going to play here in the United States.
Well,
will it?
For his base, I mean, they just but it goes back to what you were saying, Heather, about how do we break through the noise? And frankly, we know that the algorithms like argumentative content. It's a big part of why Trump is in everybody's feeds. And the Democrats should engage on that front. And it's just the performance of toughness that I think his base will like. But it is a good reminder for everybody who's sane, the other 2/3 of the country, that he's a total lunatic. It's an embarrassment.
Let's be clear. By all accounts, this deal was going to be signed, right? I mean,
it was already done. Yeah.
Right. So understand, this is, I think, an extension of the same strategy as pretending like we got some type of big win with the mineral rights.
Right.
Okay. It is a way to communicate to his base, even though we're going to continue to provide weaponry and funds to Ukraine. It is a way to say, like, you saw me. It was a complete smackdown. Like this is for a very specific domestic audience, his base, to make it feel like promise kept.
Like
I showed these guys. Yes. Yeah. Like I'm the big dog. I alphaed this guy. I alphaed him. I took their resources and I took his pride. And I'm quite convinced this was like Vance was sent in there specifically to do this. Say thank you to him. Say thank you to him. And I think like they mapped this out probably more than just about anything they've ever done, I would say. I mean, that's my.
Vance has never been in one of these meetings before. He's not a Ukraine expert. He has no real reason to be there.
He wasn't in politics up until 2 years ago.
Well,
the guy doesn't know. I mean
of course.
Everything he learned from about Ukraine was from like I don't know.
He's read some stories. He read the stories, Sam, so he knows all about it. He read the stories. He's seen them, so he knows. Well, frankly, I mean, I think the stuff of him smacking down Zelensky, that'll play with the base, and I'm sure they'll like the whole thing. But what do we think about this digression into Putin and Russia and how they bonded over the Russia hoax, and it all started in Hunter Biden's bedroom? What was going on with that? Because that sounded completely bonkers. That was out to lunch. Donald Trump down the Truth Social rabbit meme hole. I don't know. I mean, that's going to go viral too, and I have.
That's where he lost it, right?
Yeah,
like Vance had
control.
Exactly. Vance set him up to do what Sam is saying and what we're all saying, but Trump doesn't have the discipline, so he just did his Fox News grandpa thing that is completely indecipherable about the laptop from hell, which makes me laugh every single time I hear it.
Probably Adele.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll be very interested to see what the reaction is. I mean, it is going to go viral, and they'll be playing it, and I'm sure certain people will like it and certain people won't. But if you're thinking about the substance of it, of what's really happening with Ukraine, what he said to Zelensky there in his diatribe was, "You do this deal, or you're going to be on your own." and you're not going to do, you have no cards to play, and you're not going to like it, and blah, blah, blah. Well, he is doing the deal. He already agreed to do the deal, and I'm sure he still will. What does that mean? Does that mean that Trump is still going to provide military aid to Ukraine because he does the deal, because he dominated him and forced him to sign the deal now that he didn't want to sign, and now he said, well, okay, we're getting paid back for this, and we're gonna get paid, so we'll send military aid? I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows what the answer there is. I mean, is it all performative? The whole thing? Is that what this is all about? Trump gets to pound his chest like a big an aging silverback gorilla, a crazed aging silverback gorilla, and but really and truly, nothing's actually changed? I don't know.
I think we're going to have to watch and see. I mean, certainly, I will say this. What is quite clear is that Europe is going to organize in a different way.
They are. That's done.
And
done.
Even the first time around when we were talking about this, all of our foreign policy conversations went something like, if you were an ally and you look at this country and they go from Obama to Trump, even if Trump loses, there's no guarantee. And that you can rely on the role that the United States has been playing. Now, to be clear, I think there's been a lot of bad things that we have done, not the least of which at least most recently, arm Israel in the genocide. But
invade
they
Iraq.
have invade Iraq. I mean, obviously, like the show probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't based upon things that America have done that have been atrocious and crimes. They have effectively eliminated the positive things that we do.
Yeah.
So that sort of that old chestnut
power.
Don't you think that the on net what the United States is doing, like that?
No.
That formulation, which you and I grew up with, whenever there was a critique of America, on balance, though, on net, World War II, and I'm talking about the propaganda. That propaganda now seems off the table. Like now it's just, we're just another country that is increasingly authoritarian, and we're going to get our spoils. They're going to get their spoils. And that's the dynamic that's going on. And I think Europe is waking up to that notion and going like, hey, wait a second. We're sort of in the middle. And this is...
there are others that are in the middle too. Keep in mind that one of the main reasons for the post-World War II order and the American security guarantee was that we live in a nuclear age. And a very serious part of our world order, as screwed up as it was with Vietnam and more recently Iraq and, all the proxy wars and everything else that the U.S. did that was awful, the balance part of it, and an important one, was to keep the possibility of a nuclear arms race as scientific capability came online all over the world from actually exploding. And I think we're going to see that now. You've got countries like Germany talking about nuclear arms now.
Yep.
They're talking about it. Now, that was one thing nobody wanted. And by the way, think about this a little bit. Europe's our friend, they're our allies. Who came in second in the last German election? Not
AfD.
Good guys. They were not our friends. And so Germany arms up, decides to militarize again, gets nuclear weapons. And how about if the AfD takes over in Germany? Good news for us? No. I mean, this is not something we want to see happen. We don't want to see it happen in Japan, because over there you've got China on the move. You've got all kinds of dangers that are coming from the end of the post-Cold War era without anything to replace it. I mean, except what you're talking about, Sam, this kind of protection racket that we're now doing. And that protection racket is not going to work, because you can't run a security guarantee based upon whether somebody, based upon the VIG, right? It's just not going to work. So this is going to be a very dangerous transition for us, and we're going to see some real interesting things.
And as we were talking about earlier, in terms of like the domestic agenda, where you have the tech bros and the Heritage Foundation folks and the Trumpistas, all their agendas were aligned. It really doesn't matter what their incentive structure is. It's their agendas are aligned. Yep. In terms of like foreign relations, Elon Musk, people can argue as to whether or not we should be the reserve currency of the world. But Elon Musk doesn't care. Elon Musk doesn't care. I mean, these tech bros, they are looking for they're not married to the idea of American being, sort of like having some type of economic hegemony in any way. They're not married to the idea of a stable international sort of like economic system. They're not. In fact, there's a lot of money for them to be made to be their own sort of feudal. I mean, these are feudal tech lords, and so their agenda there. And Donald Trump, this guy is like, what's going to put money in my pocket? I don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, the implications of this stuff down the road. People talk about like what happens if we're not the petrodollar, and what happens if we're not the reserve, the reserve currency down the road. Well, this is, if you wanted to undermine that dynamic, this is pretty much how you go about doing it. It seems to me. And
I agree.
We'll see. All right, we got to take we got to say goodbye. We held you for 30 minutes over. Sorry.
That's okay. What a day, huh? Every day is what a day.
I
What's
know.
the difference? Yeah, okay.
We have to make
Another
the show
Friday.
6 hours long. We're like Twitch streaming now.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't even really, gotten into it in an hour and a half. I mean, so.
Yeah, so
anyway,
much news.
Heather, always a pleasure,
Again.
I guess. I don't know.
Always a pleasure.
Let me put it this way. I feel like we didn't exacerbate how depressing this was. We started in depressing. We're exiting at the same, I feel like, depressing on the depressing meter.
Yes. In fact, if that's what passes for optimism and cheerfulness these days, I'm not any more depressed now than I was when we started. So, this is good.
That's
Happy
nice.
Friday. Yeah,
Yes,
happy
happy
Friday.
Yes.
Oh my
We will,
God.
of course, link to your pieces in Salon
Thank
and
you.
the Uber blog,
you.
Hullabaloo. See you soon.
All
Thanks,
right,
Heather.
it's been great. Have a good weekend,
You too.
guys.
You too.
Just one note on the Zelensky thing. Andrea Pagliarini had a good tweet. Said, I don't know why these things still surprise me what they do. This is a criticism. This is on the sort of Zelensky thing and the way Trump and Vance want to, I guess, diminish him. Bolsonaro criticized Lula for treating Trump as if he were an equal. Quote, Bolsonaro, when I was president, I knew my place when speaking with him. So there's your, unipolar world for you.
Yeah, right. It's like Trump wants to he's a transactional politician, right? We know this. But the transactions that he's engaging in when it comes to stuff that is outside of like getting RFK on Health and Human Services Secretary so he can get his voters, when it's actually about foreign policy, he's not extracting anything. Like he's transactional, but there's nothing except like a public relations victory is what he wants out of it.
What
right?
they're doing with, we talked about this with
We
Van
may not
Jackson.
be able to see the transaction too.
Well, with Van Jackson, I mean, the moves with the budget, with the Pentagon, is just moving money from overseas to like the border and stuff like that. It's
and it seems like they want to they say that cutting it by 8% is the directive, but it's when you look at the fine print, they're just moving it around, most likely to unmanned
The resolution they
drones.
just passed added $10 billion annually to the defense budget, and the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate said like that's not enough. So I mean, they could. Let's head into the fun half, as it were. And I mean, one of the things, I did Piers Morgan yesterday. I didn't read my emails enough, so I didn't know who I was going to be on with. And it was Benny Johnson, who I know that we have played some videos of him. And I guess I don't know.
George
the other,
Galloway was there?
Galloway was there. I didn't interact with Galloway at all. It was just so strange. It was like we were at a tennis match and watching them. It was the whole thing was just sort of.
Good use of your time.
What was the name of the woman? She was from
Jillian Michaels. She was
Biggest Loser?
she was a trainer on The Biggest Loser.
Right. She's a turf.
Stablemate with.
She told me that the they're not feeding kids thing. You got to pull that out, and I'm like, well, it's true. Like what? You want to. If you want to collapse USAID because you don't want to fund Sesame Street in Iraq, but I mean, it also feeds people. But
it gives people HIV medication. I mean, what a
the other thing I realized.
Idiot.
I mean, Benny Johnson doesn't seem to know anything about anything. Like I found it almost like just it was boring because it was just really him doing shtick. The one thing is like when we were talking about the Empowerment Control Act. They weren't talking about that, but I brought it up, and Train v. NYC, and all of the idea that Congress appropriates money. He went on this talking point about Section 2 of the Constitution, saying the president had ultimate authority and et cetera, et cetera. And it was the only time that he actually said anything of substance. It was completely, just obviously something that some talking point that he got. But I realized like they don't have to engage at all anymore. They just there is enough of a mechanism for them to get to their own audience that they can just simply lie. And, the idea that even, I mean, yes, USAID is being completely destroyed, and there's a lot of great stuff that is being done that is getting destroyed. There's a lot of stuff, that Jillian had said about corporations getting all these contracts, without a doubt. Everything else that is being done is a complete empowerment of all of these same corporations. They don't believe a single word in what they're talking about. It is at any given moment, it's just to simply justify these moves. And it really just struck me like, Trump doesn't care about the broader implications. He is just making sure that he is provided for his domestic hunger to see him hand it to Ukraine. That's it. Mission accomplished. He did what he needed to do. There's no other audience for him.
I should just say, White House correspondent for Semaphore, Shelby Talcott, reporting that she's being told the minerals deal was not signed.
Oh.
They canceled their press conference too. They cut the whole thing short. And Trump made this statement on Truth Social. Matt, if you wanted to put this up, if you guys can read it.
Oh, right.
This was sort of Trump's line after the meeting ended.
We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire. They should have had this on Lex Friedman's show. It's amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. Okay. I don't want advantage. I want peace. He disrespects the United States in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for capital peace.
It's just, I love his what he chooses to
very meaningful meeting, but is too emotional on their side of things.
make into
the deal.
Proper nouns.
You didn't say thank you, and so that's the libs made me do it.
By emotional, I mean I got upset at his manners.
And obviously the laptop from hell. Obviously. And what they did to me and Pooty Poot.
Putin went through
Hunter
so
Biden
much.
even that involved in the Russiagate thing? I guess the laptop from I don't know.
Right. Yeah. What is?
I felt like he was sort of a late like a season 3 addition to that plot line.
Yeah, exactly.
He's when he mentions the 51 national security officials. He's obsessed with like Clapper and John Brennan like writing a letter saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story being sent to the New York Post was like Russian intelligence, and that apparently he always says that was debunked. So he brings up the 51 national security officials constantly because they sent that letter.
The ones who were out of office and had no power.
Yes, like Clapper and Brennan,
and had an opinion that probably wasn't even true.
Right.
Okay.
I wonder if this wasn't the plan all along. Crash the deal.
Sure.
Just put on a show.
They just voted against the condemnation of Russia at the United Nations, which it was they joined. This is what I talked about yesterday with Trita, calling it the axis of aggressors: Russia, Israel, the United States joining. Yep. I mean, North Korea, who's providing Russia with arms right now, but.
And I would say it'd be nice if a president would speak that way to Benjamin Netanyahu.
I would give Trump so much credit if he did that. But
we enabled your genocide, and you never
get to be a tough guy.
We did that. You wouldn't have been able to do any ethnic cleansing. You wouldn't even be ethnic arranging if we hadn't given you the money.
I'll start holding my breath on that.
Folks, I'm going to take a quick break, head into the... Did we do it? Yeah, we should. I got to go to the bathroom. We go... head into the fun half. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member, join the majorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the fun half, or the free half free of commercials, but you get the fun half. Also, check out the AM Quickie. What is wrong with you? Do you really think that you can handle all this news without it being broken down in a very sort of like tiny bullet points?
Yes.
These guys are doing a great job over there. Corey and Jacob doing an amazing job with the AM Quickie. Job. It is free 3 times a week.
And if you canceled your, Times membership over their coverage of something like trans issues or Gaza, and I know I have a family member that just canceled her Washington Post subscription over that Jeff Bezos thing. I don't know if I would do that because it's like I love, Jeff Stein, some other reporters there. But it's also a way to like get your news and you don't have to subscribe to a bunch of different publications, even if you have, ethical problems with them or whatever. So
amquickie.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, and hot chocolate. Coupon code majority, get 10% off. ESVN on
We're
hiatus.
Still on hiatus, yes. Lots
That's
of news
all right.
in this,
you got
realm.
Still that Knicks beginning of the week.
Yeah, no, it was the Eagles winning the Super Bowl is what sent me, reeling. I have to regroup now with Saquon Barkley, having a historic season for them. So,
Matt. Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning, we had Elise Joshi, who is leader of Gen Z for Change, talking about her experience trying to push the Democrats left on climate issues and ultimately protesting Karine Jean-Pierre's speech a couple of years ago. Also, Van Jackson talking about a lot of this stuff, how Trump's supposed cuts to the Pentagon are mainly about removing black people and the oversight capacity of the Pentagon, and then moving the rest of the money over to like the border, boondoggle, or tech companies for drone assassination programs. So check that out, Van Jackson, really smart guy. Patreon.com/leftreckoning.
All right, quick break, fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder. What a fucking nightmare.
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Fuck them.